episode of Nicola Bakes, we are going to be making this amazing bag end cake from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So I hope you enjoy this video and let's get started. So 24 hours before you want your cake to be finished, you're going to need to make your door and windows to bag end. Now you need to do this so far in advance because you're going to be making it out of fondant, and fondant takes about 24 hours to dry. And when it's dry and stiff, it just makes it so much easier to stick it on the cake at the end. So what you're going to need to do is, one, think about how big your cake's going to be, decide which pans you're going to use and how tall you want it. That way you can kind of get the shape of your doors and windows to scale. Also, it's a good idea to look at a picture of bag end, find one online so you've got something to go by. I've decided to do the film version, so I've cut out some paper versions of the doors and windows so I kind of have something to draw around. So I've gone for that for the door, that shape, and I'm going to paint on all the features with some food colouring later. And then it also kind of has this like double window on one of the sides and just a wee window on the other one. So I'm going to place these shapes on top of my fondant that I just bought at the supermarket and rolled it out, and I'm just going to cut it out with a knife. Okay, so once you've cut out all your fondant pieces, it's time to decorate them with some food colouring. Now I recommend you use gel food colouring for this because it just makes the fondant less soggy than liquid food colouring. It's also a really good idea to have a picture on hand of what you're trying to achieve, so you can keep referring to it and just make your design a bit better. So let's get going. Fondant pieces have completely dried out and hardened up, it's time to make and assemble your cake. Now I decided not to film me making all this cake just because then the video would be about 12 hours long and it'd be really boring. So I'm just going to quickly explain what I did. What I did was, I think I baked about 7 or 8 just normal chocolate sponges in the end in a rectangle roasting tin. And you can use any recipe that you like, just use your favourite one. And if you're not a confident baker, just use like a packet of cake mix, it doesn't really matter. And then what I did once they were all cooled is I cut them up and assembled them into the shape of bag end, or the rough shape of bag end just now. So you're going to need to make sure you have kind of like a hill shape at the top of the back, and then a kind of flat front section where you can put the guards in, and the pathway. And you're also going to need quite a sharp kind of cliff face from the hill, because this is where you're going to put the doors and the windows as well. So once you've stacked all your cakes, you're going to want to stick them together with a really thin layer of icing, and then you're going to want to just carve them so that the hill's a little bit more gentle, it doesn't look like a jagged pyramid. And then after that you're going to cover the whole thing in some chocolate icing. It might be a good idea once you're carving the cake not to throw away the excess pieces, just because you might want to patch up a certain area or embellish a certain area just to make it look more realistic. So just keep hold of them for now. Okay, so once your bag end cake is covered in icing, you're just going to need to put it in the fridge to set just for about 10 minutes. And whilst it's setting, you can make the grass. Okay, so to make the grass to go onto your bag end cake, you're going to need some desiccated coconut, probably quite a big bag depending on the size of your cake. And you're also going to need lots of green food colouring. Now in this instance, it's probably actually better to have liquid food colouring because the desiccated coconut will soak it up better and go a nice green. So all you need to do is pour some of your coconut into a bowl. I'm ready to make some more. And just pour in your green food colouring. And then mix it up and keep adding more food colouring until you get your desired green. And don't forget, Hobbiton is usually portrayed as having quite bright green grass. It's being quite lush, so don't be afraid to make the green quite bright. Okay, so once you've mixed together all your coconut and your food colouring, you should have this really cool grass effect. And then it's time to put it on the cake. Before I put any of the coconut on the face of the hill, I'm just going to add my decorated fondant pieces first. This is because it's a lot easier for them to stick to the chocolate icing rather than the coconut. As you can see, the cake is now beginning to look really like bag end, but there are a few finishing touches you can do to make the cake look even better. For instance, I've just made a bowl of a slightly darker green grass, or coconut grass, that I'm going to use to sprinkle over the cake just so that the colour looks a little bit more natural. I'm also going to use some flaked almonds to create a little path going from the door to either side of the cake. I'm also going to use some bite-sized shredded wheat to make a fence running along the front of the cake. And then once I've stuck them on, I'm just going to use a bit of icing to stick those on. I'm going to paint them brown with some brown food colouring. Right, and as the last final touch, I'm just going to add some bushes that I made out of royal icing onto the cake. Just a few, you don't want to overcrowd it. And then we're done. So there you have your very own bag end cake. Now I know this cake can seem like a really ambitious thing to do, but as you've seen in this video, I haven't used any specialist tools or equipment. I've just used a roasting tin to bake the cakes. I've used coconut and shredded wheat. So this is really something that you could do at home if you wanted to. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you again soon. Anymore.